So, what the heck is this vegetable, and what the heck are we going to do with it? Let's find out. Hi there, welcome to Bear Mountain today. Today we're going to talk about rutabagas, or Swedes if you're in Europe. This is a vegetable we use a lot, particularly if you're on a keto diet. They make great type of substitution for many things that you would use a stiff noodle for or a potato for. They are a great vegetable used like in a spiralizer to cut it up into a flat, like curly fry type look. They bake up real well.
Pasta!
And it actually does make an excellent substitute for pasta. This is a brassica. So we started, this is the first time we've ever raised these, and right now the plants, I gotta tell you, I've neglected them a bit. I probably should have been spraying them more for things like cabbage looper and aphids and things of that nature, but they're pretty much near the end of their growth cycle. And so some of these guys I'm gonna harvest, and the smaller ones I'm gonna leave in the ground and let them just kind of go a little longer into the season. I'll clean out all the disease stuff out of this, and then we'll spray it down with some K&F solutions. Like if we bump the calcium up a little bit, it'll kind of take care of the aphid problem. And we're getting a little bit of powdery mildew this time of year, so we'll also put on some LAB. And that kind of hit them with a couple times the solutions with that will probably correct most of the problems.
And pull the giant weed.
Yeah, we got a dock growing in there. Yeah.
One.
So anyway, thought we'd just show you, what they kind of look like. And here's one that, if you leave them in the ground, they can just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I suppose. And kind of what we're doing here is we're going to, we cut the top off. It's kind of an ugly looking vegetable. In our area, we have, particularly during summertime, we'll get a few insects that'll maybe try to bore in a little bit, like maybe a half inch, not even a half inch, that's way too much, but just on the surface, kind of make a cosmetic indentation on the bulb itself. But the bulb on this, when you use them, you peel them anyway, so you're going to take all this stuff off and use the center of the bulb itself. And if you look at, this top, what you do when you harvest is you just cut the top off, you cut what's left of the taproot off, probably wash them up a little bit, and then if I was to store them, I'm just going to store them in a cooler. We'll put them in a tray, and just
crate.
Yeah, a crate, and then just maybe put something around and kind of keep the moisture around them. Kind of store them the same way you would store carrots if you had to do that for a while. Just want to make sure there's no insects on it. Oops, don't drop them. Well, they're pretty tough anyway.
Can't really bruise those.
You can't really bruise them. They're as hard as a baseball.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a pretty good size. It's maybe a ½ pound. Like I said, if you leave them in the ground, or you space them out a little more. We planted them in multi-plugs, which I don't think I would do again. I had roughly like 2 plants in a plug, and I would space them definitely further apart because I had no idea how big these guys were going to get. So.
However, we did learn. We bought what we were thinking is the size of rutabaga that Tony has in his hands. We ordered from Walmart. That's our way of getting some food for since this pandemic thing. And we got some rutabagas that were the size of bowling balls.
Yeah, they were huge.
They were huge.
For us, really, softball size is kind of the best.
But that bowling ball was still good.
Yeah, it was still good. So they can get quite big. And
don't recommend that.
Like we said, we'll probably leave maybe half of the bed in and just kind of let them get a little bigger. They'll keep growing through the cool season, and it'll probably be something like a really hard frost, a killing frost, that'll maybe start to knock them back. probably make the bulbs a little sweeter too, I can guess. But in this case, I think what we learned out of it is, we planted it at the right time,
which we weren't sure.
Which was right around the first week of July. They went in the ground, and this is now the 20th of September. They did have time to bulb up and get good size. I think if I was to plant in the future with the size of these rutabagas, I'd treat them like kale, and I'd make them at least 12 inches apart, so that you can get really good size and good airflow around the plants. And
we did get the insect netting, but it was a little late getting here, and I think we should use it to cover them.
When we started, what we did when we first put them in for 2 weeks, we put an Agribon 19, I think it was 19. Well, you could use 17 or 19, which is very fine. It's a very light cover. And we put that over them to protect them from birds and stuff coming in and pecking at them, because that is one thing on brassicas around here. We would get sparrows or something of that nature come in and peck the young plants. We particularly had that problem last fall when we planted our fall kale. We had no protection over it, and they liked the kale better than we did. And so yeah, we kind of learned a lesson on that, and then we kept a bird net over the top of it on these hoops for most of the growing part of the time, till the plants, they get to a certain size, it wouldn't bother them anymore. One thing we didn't do is we didn't come in and take off the dying, diseased, or shaded out leaves, which I think, when you start taking some of these guys off, you could take off these lower leaves like this that are doing nothing for the plant, but giving them, opportunities for slugs to hide. So keeping it, cleaner would also be a real big thing, a real big positive. And that would help again with the airflow, which would be less, problems with aphids and stuff like that. The only other thing that we noticed on these guys was we did have some scarring on the outside, because at this time of year, I'm not sure what critter's doing it, but there's some scarring on the outside of the actual bulb itself, but that will cut off and we won't lose that much of it. So a couple of these guys would make a meal for 2 people.
How many do you think we got in here?
This bed I planted, let's see, this bed, I think it has like 50 of them in it. Somewhere around in there.
Do you think we can hold them through the winter? Because this is like our winter crop for us to eat.
Well, it is one thing, but yeah, I think so. I think, part of it is, like I said, we'll clean it up. They'll stay in the ground probably till Thanksgiving, I would think.
Unless we notice something eating them.
Yeah, unless we notice something eating. That's one other thing is you got to remember, when critters start having less and less food, this stuff starts looking a lot better. So you got to kind of watch out for that. If it looks like, we're going to start getting mice problems, then they'll come out.
Would you grow them again?
Absolutely. It was actually, if I had taken care of it.
It was an easy crop.
It was an easy crop. Easy to do. It's kind of like kohlrabi's easy too, They just grow real well too.
So yeah, that was just sort of put them in and initially take care of them, and they did really well. Where other things.
Point to note though, we are in zone 8B. B. We are 60 miles ish from the Pacific Ocean. We have what's called a maritime climate. So in the summertime, we are usually dry and warm, 80 to 95.
Yeah, a lot of hot days.
Typical summer days in July and August are between 80 and 95. You might even throw a few hundreds in there once in a while. But it's basically dry until we get to fall. We had our first fall rains last week, which was right around the 15th.
Okay, and
that's just the important thing.
How often do you water?
These were on a drip, so the drip was on a timer, and the timer said I'll water them during July and August. They were getting hit in 20 minutes a day on drip, twice a day. Okay, and that is just, you probably could have got away with less, but they seem to respond really well to it. Even in that really super hot days, I mean, the foliage may wilt a little bit, but it would perk right back up. So they seem to do pretty good on twice a day, 20 minutes. And once they got the canopy up, they were pretty much home free. So anyway, just another interesting vegetable that you might want to think about for your garden next year. This variety was called Helenor, I think.
Helen, Helanor from Johnny's Select Seeds.
Yep, and it germinated real well and seemed to do pretty good.
We started them inside in little trays.
Yep.
And bumped them up, and then we bumped them up, right? Yeah. And then you put them in. They weren't very big, but they then once they hit the ground.
That's about 4 weeks.
Yeah, once they hit the ground, though, they just started taking off.
Yeah, they looked like they really got slapped around when we first put them in. They were kind of floppy, but as long as you protect them from the birds and the slugs.
They were floppy things, so don't get panicky. I remember that. They were pretty floppy little seedlings, but once they got into the ground, they took off.
Yep. So anyway, thanks for watching today, and just wanted to share interesting vegetable. It's different.
Yummy.
So, you all have a good day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.